Blake Production.
Yo, I want to bust out a couple of these short little videos on some stocks I'm interested in, right? So we're looking at DraftKings here, DKNG. I saw a funny tweet actually. JJ Watt absolutely blasted DraftKings on Twitter. Basically said that their performance has been horrible and they need to do a little bit better. I thought the timing of that was pretty interesting. So when I go look at the chart, right, we'll go to the weekly time frame. It's clear, right? We look at this weekly time frame, right? It's a horrible downtrend, very sharp. It's a pullback that, like, if you're in this stock at these levels, it's been brutal, right? Now, for those who are wondering why I have these trend lines up, these are trend lines I put on my charts to kind of tell me if a trend is being broken or if characteristics of a trend are changing, right? So this trend line right here is indicating that if we break below, it's no longer participating in this trend, right? So now we could also look at this. It's the weekly time frame. We can mark out that there's a pretty obvious head and shoulders pattern going on here, and that's what eventually caused us to break down. And this is early 2021, right, in January, and then we had some sort of a pop into September. But what was happening in retrospect is that we were creating a head and shoulders pattern with this being the neckline, and now we come back down towards this massive downtrend that's led us right back to the IPO days, right? So, excuse me, back in 2020 when this was a SPAC and no one was 100% sure if this was going to be DraftKings, there's rumors, and that's what creates all this hype, right? And then we get this massive pump, and you could ride that, right? What I would use to pay attention to that is an 8 EMA, right? The 8 EMA here is a beauty indicator to use to tell us, like, this stock is trending very nicely, right? So we'll look back at that time and look at the 8 EMA. Massive uptrend. And we start to use it as support. But now when we look over here, we've been under the 8 EMA pretty significantly over the past 6 to 8 months, right? Oh, even longer. This is September 2021. So this has been a long while where we've been under the 8 EMA. Right? So I just wanted to point that out so you guys can get an idea of what's going on here in terms of trends. But something that I'm looking at that I find interesting in this stock is that we've had this trend line that's been holding us back here. And again, just like over here, right, we have this trend line that, you know, it's telling us that there's an uptrend going, right? We're creating higher lows each time on this trend, right? Until we break below, and then we no longer are following that trend anymore. Well, what I'm looking at here is we have lower highs being made, right? So for those who might be confused, I'll go over it real quick. We have higher lows in this area, and this trend line here is acting as support. So here's a low, right? We come up here, a high, a higher low than this previous one, and then that continues, right, with this trend, a higher low. We have some sort of a little bit of a downtrend in that period of time, but again, we create a higher low. This trend line, again, still being valid, and then we get another pop until over here, it no longer acts as our support anymore, and we get that breakdown, right? Now, we're looking at the opposite. We have lower highs, right? So here's the high. We create a low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low. We try to retest, we break down a lower low, a lower high, and it continues, right? So that's just a basic breakdown of what the stock is doing from a trend perspective, okay? Now what we want to see, just like we see this breakdown, we want to see this eventually try to break up. So what we will be looking for that to happen is we want to see an increase in bull volume, okay? We also want to see this major level right here get broken over. So over here, it's a clear resistance zone. We've like pretty much rejected it many times since mid-May. And a few more times if we scroll back, right? This zone is a major zone in the chart. We couldn't technically break up over it and hold it. So what we want to see, right? We've created some sort of a base where we've come back to IPO levels when it was once a SPAC. And now we want to see us get that push above this trend line, which would tell us that the trend potentially is being broken. And then a back test. Maybe weaken this level, right? This 1484 level. And get some sort of movement like this to get another break to the upside, which we would then look for previous resistance. It's no guarantee that this is going to happen again. It's just a quick little video of me breaking down the technicals on DraftKings. But that is what I would be looking for from a bull perspective. From a bear perspective, again, keep in mind, this trend line could be holding us back for a little bit longer. So if we come back up to it and get a rejection, don't be surprised. And then we need to see follow through for the bears, right? The bears would want to see us break this low and then continue further down towards like that $755 range. That's the breakdown. Peace.